All right, good afternoon.
Yeah, my mic was mute. Yeah, good evening. You're welcome now to our broadcast today. Yeah, 30 minutes again with me, Twitwi. This is, of course, Citizen Information Network. So thank you very much for taking time again to be a part of today's broadcast. In case you don't know, today is youth service. I said youth service. No, I beg your pardon. Today is the day for Public Service Day. It's marked every June 3rd, and it's a day set aside by the United Nations to create awareness about public service and the things that are really needed by public servants, and of course to call the attention of everyone, draw the attention of everyone to what it takes to be a public servant, and of course what it means to be in public service. So first, I'm just going to establish first that public service is just basically a service that is intended to serve all members of a community. So it's about the processes, the things and activities that happen in your local community, your town, your village, your local government, your state, your nation, you know, a zone, and just the world generally. So it's just a service that is intended to serve all members of a community. So, and of course, the reason I just have to define it and even mention it again, not because it's not done by all, but it's just because of the fact that when we talk about public service in Nigeria, to some people it's another time or it's about getting a cut from the national cake. So, just for us to be clear, public service is basically about a service that is intended to serve all members, not one part, all members of a community. And so, if whatever service you are rendering is not reaching out to every member of a community, then there is failure in public service. It cannot be said that the service is complete. So that is why I just want us to get it clear what it is about public service day. So June 3rd, today I want us to really talk about public service and the fight against corruption. Now, if we're talking about public service, it is very similar, of course, to when people talk about civil service. Yeah, just the little difference now is that when they talk about civil service, it's similar to public service because it's about the same service that is intended for the benefit of all members of a community. But the difference is just because the civil it has to do with services that are controlled by government. Yeah. But then when we talk about public service generally, it's not, it doesn't really have to involve government all the time. It can be about what you do in your community, how you engage with people in your community, and the activities that you do. So that basically is what public service it's about, you know. So, but then civil service is a part or a branch of public service, yeah, because it's also rendering services to members of a community, the general public. So now I want us to talk about public service and the fight against corruption. Now the reason for this is because the theme for this year's celebration is that the United Nations is honoring those who are in this service, in public service, fighting against the COVID-19 pandemic. So, talking about the public servants that are fighting against the COVID-19 pandemic. So, where the United Nations is taking today to observe and to honor them. And the message from the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, is that, let me read verbatim now. It says here, today, as we honor these essential workers and so many more, we must also reflect on how to better protect, recognize, and invest in their well-being as we build back better together. And I say directly to these aspiring public servants, we are all deeply indebted to you for your remarkable act of service to humankind. That is the message from the Secretary General of the United Nations to every member of the public fighting to control COVID-19. Yeah. So that is to the doctors, the nurses, you know, those, everybody, the cleaner in all isolation center, the technicians, the repairers, the generator man, and everybody that is working to ensure that things are in place for us to have a better society and, of course, control the spread of COVID-19. So as we talk about COVID-19, it is very important for us to understand that we cannot talk about public service without talking about corruption. Yeah. But first, in case you don't know again, corruption is not all about taking money. It's about using your power, your position, your office to personal benefits. You use your office, your position to make things work in your favor instead of working for the general public, which is to the benefit of all members of a community or our nation as we have it in Nigeria. So now, it is one thing for us to think about the fact that we can fight corruption without enhancing good public service. Now, I don't want to dwell into the civil service, which is a part of public service. But first, let's talk about those who are not in the civil service, but who are in public service. For example, let's talk about the appointee of politicians. So I'm just going to dwell into politicians mainly. For example, a dual election is just by the corner. And how many of us really understand how much it costs to contest a governorship election in this country? I won't give you any idea. But let me just tell you something from INEC. It costs INEC over 200 billion to conduct the 2019 election. And you want to say to yourself, like, 200 billion naira. Wow. How much we really need to make sure, say, civil servants go collect a good salary, we no go make them they collect a good share. But that is what we do every 4 years. And from what we've seen with the trends on what INEC has opened to the public so far, is the fact that the cost of conducting election in this country, they increase every year. And now, say that in our 2019 election, INEC get budget for this year again, and they get just 2 major elections to conduct for this year. The Edo election and the Ondo election. And that will cost Nigeria billions again. So now, apart from the money where they cost us to conduct elections, now let's talk about how much it actually costs for an aspirant or a candidate or a political party to contest an election. I was speaking with someone that contested House of representative election in Ibejuleki Federal Constituency. And I get to learn from some people that the person spent well over 150 million. 150 million naira for just a Federal House of Representative election. And as a matter of truth, when we talk about this election, the person don't win. We don't know how much the person will win the election actually spent to win that particular election. So if election is so expensive, we are building up to public service, right? And the fight against corruption. So if it's costing this much to contest election in Nigeria, hundreds of millions for just state House of Assembly election in some places like Ilaje, local government in Ondo State, you know. And then you talk about federal election in Lagos, then you now want to consider how much it costs to contest election in places like River State, Bayelsa, and the rest. So if we look at this, we see that it is very, very expensive to contest election. So why is it so expensive to contest election? Number one, the cost of getting a party ticket. You know how much you have to pay. For example, we know it cost President Muhammadu Buhari well over 27 million naira to get the APC presidential ticket. Yeah, over 27 million. Just imagine, that is just a ticket, an expression of interest to say, yes, I want to contest this election under this political party. And then you have to spend that much. So now, if we think about it, you discover that, oh, if it's costing this much to contest, to just get a party ticket, expression of interest, not that you've become the party candidate. Now, you now want to think about campaigning within the political party to win the primary election in that political party. So if you think about that, then we'll now see that together, if the more you spend to win an election, it's like a business. You want to get back your money, because majority of those that goes into election, they are not just there to spend their money and not make anything in return. Some want to do it just because, number one, they are doing it because they think by the time they get to occupy a political seat, they can really make changes to some of the things we are complaining about. Like if you become a lawmaker, it becomes easier for you to say, oh, we have to make better laws for the people, law that truly reflects the needs of the people. But then again, if you're going to spend billions just for you to contest to become a lawmaker in your state, think about it. You need the money back. Like President Muhammadu Buhari said, it's hard to take a loan for him to contest the primary election in the All Progressive Congress in 2015. Till today, nobody don't tell us whether Buhari don't pay the loan back or how much interest the bank charge him, you know. But that's just the story. So let's just assume that it is the same for every other politician, whether at local government level or at state level. So if they will be spending that much to contest election, so how they want to make that money back? So if you are not making that money back, that would mean that why should you contest the election and spend 150 million just to contest when you can as well spend that 150 million to beautify your immediate community? So the more the cost of running for political offices increases, the more we are opening our system up for corruption. And every 4 years, we have to conduct election by spending money we not deal, money we not get to. Because we go borrow money before we fit give INEC money to conduct election every 4 years. Yeah. And then we still complain about corruption. Because number one, this is it. A public servant, or a civil servant in this case now, let's talk about civil servant now, who sees everything that happens within the office. They know the files that flies around. They know some of the things that are going on. And yeah, they understand how much you spend to win election. It means that one way or the other, you have to do some shady business for you to be able to get whatever you put into that election for you to get it back. Now, let's just take a quick break now. It's 15 minutes into the 30-minute mark already. Just stay with me. My name is Twitwi Ayenowowon. I'll be right back for the last part of the conversation. This is 30 minutes with Twitwi. And of course, I'm doing this outside my house. I drove out of the house today to do something at Victoria Island, and I thought that, oh, okay, while I'm at it, I can't be in traffic. I have no driver. Let me just stop by a sidewalk here, do the broadcast. So I'm bringing this to you. Even though sidewalk not pay for this advert, I know say that they show for the back already. So even if I not call sidewalk, oh, the S not show set. I don't already call the sidewalk. For your live and for I'd walk.
From ignorance, disease, and poverty. On the 24th day of May, perhaps the most powerful speech ever made by an African leader was delivered by Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah. And he reminded the leaders who were present on that day about a number of things. One, he told them that not to delude themselves that by regaining their independence, the erstwhile colonizer would recoil and remain inactive. That in fact, the erstwhile colonial master was going to be more pernicious, but in a very subtle way. Kwame Nkrumah was right. He reminded his audience that going forward it was necessary and indeed urgent that Africans should begin to think as one whole, because if they remained in disunity, they would remain weak and vulnerable and therefore susceptible to manipulation. Kwame Nkrumah was right. He reminded his audience that because many of, if not all, of the African countries were artificial. They were created in Berlin, and the boundaries were artificial. But he urged his audience that they should respect the inviolability of the boundaries, because if they tried to redraw the boundaries, conflict would never end. And that was reinforced in 1964 in Cairo on the dock.
All right, guys, welcome back now. That was Patrice Lumumba speaking there some years back in Kigali, addressing a joint force put together by Africa, a retreat created for the armed forces in Africa. Yeah, so just as I was talking about public service, and today, once again, in case you've just joined, is a public service day. And of course, it's a day set aside by the United Nations to create more awareness about public service and recognize the sacrifice and the impact of a good public servants, because we get them very bad and very ugly for Nigeria. Yeah. For example, now, just as we don't enter civil servant now, what I want to talk about civil servant is that now, if you look at it, you are a civil servant. You dey try to build your career, and the peak of your career where you feel rich without any political appointment, even though politicians don't influence now permanent secretary. Apart from that, any other thing, politicians can appoint anybody, bring anybody from anywhere to enter. So then you see the difference between your salary and the salary of our president with O-level certificate, and you will get O-level, your career not fit grow to reach a permanent secretary except you become with it. You go school further. But person will not get the kind of certificate where you get. You go just go contest for election, become president, go come get more money than you yourself. So if we not set the standard and the bar become the same, there's no way we are going to eliminate corruption. Because why Buhari salary now, they say now level you get, you not even get certificate. You not see him. His salary and the salary of a O level for civil service supposed to be the same for the federal civil service. If they do it like that, say salary na the same. Now from that salary, they no give him wife any money. His children no get any entitlement. Because the man will get O level with the civil service, federal government of Nigeria not they take care of his children. You understand? So if they make it like that, that way, the man go know say, okay, the president last one. One of the things we'll then discover is that the race towards becoming president in Nigeria will definitely reduce. And the more people spend, because we see people breaking bank. For example, like what we done here from Edo State now, the governor for PDP to accept them, they negotiated a 10 billion naira. 10 billion, but the same government for Edo State, the same governor go tell civil servant for Edo State, same money no dey. A lot of states not even implement the 30,000 naira minimum wage. Some of them still owe money. So, for us to eliminate all this corruption we are talking about, that it's becoming so difficult that everybody, once they talk about Africa, what they are talking about is corruption. We cannot eliminate this corruption until we ensure that we set the standard becomes the same. If you are a governor, they catch you for corruption, they're supposed to give you the same treatment where they'll give you a man with thief for inside market. Take, for example, take out the National Assembly, the Senate celebrated Oji Uzokalu upon his return from prison. Bros, person will go prison. They find out guilty. Even though another judgment can come, so okay, the way that they do the case, but when he did prison, the National Assembly still they pay him salary. He did prison, that they pay him all the money. When he come back, you saw that video of how the clerk and the workers at the National Assembly, everybody was saluting him. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Thank God, sir. I see, say, oh, wow. People waiting for Abia. They not get that kind of recognition. So the process is very easy. But just that those where they in control of the system will not let it be. For example, I was saying something. Who talk say a man will be bricklayer, where they carry pom in salary, and the person will draw for paper in the name of say, now get the architectural drawing of the building. They go pay him more than the person where they actually carry the pom, they build the house. Now system build all those things. And these are part of the things that we're talking about, the public service thing. Though that is completely different, but I'm just trying to compare talking about public service and the fight against corruption. If we do not address some of these things, we are not going to have a society that will become sane. We'll continue to have a society where people think that it's very easy, let me just break the law, let me steal so much money that I'll be in the news. Take, for example, Osh Poppy, he did the news, everybody they talk about it. I don't call his name here again now. You see, because of the kind of fraud when they're involving. But person will go thief tire for Igbo now. Even for the same Igbo self, radio station for Igbo no go talk about that. So a man yesterday reported a stolen tire. No, nobody will talk about that. Because in crime not big. So but what I'm just trying to say in essence is that until we ensure that we create a system that makes public service, distribution of wealth, even across board, we are not going to eliminate corruption. Because the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria cannot steal without the civil servants. Those who work in Aso Rock, they know when the president day house or in not day house. They are just like your gate man, right? You see, you pay your gate man less than you pay somebody else. But you forget that same man be the first person will go open the gate to people to enter the house. And that is what we are doing. We celebrate the corrupt and we neglect those who are doing the main job. And every day we'll come out to complain and say, those waiting for civil servants, they're not the work now. Which work do they work? Which work senators they do where they pay their money? You hardly see, because we've seen in this country before where Governors go tell you, say, no work, no pay, especially when civil servants are demanding for increase in salaries, in their wages. We see situations where they'll lay some of them off for even trying to demand for increase in salary. But that doesn't happen. A senator will not go sit down past 2 times in a year, go collect all in money and all the emolument, everything they go give them. But then, if one civil servant not go work, they'll say they want deducting money. All Jews or Kalu Day prison collect all waiting day due to them. Wow. Well, that is just the much I have to say on today. But let's just on the program. But let's just get it straight. Until we create a system that ensure even distribution and equal distribution of wealth, we are not going to eliminate corruption. Because the person where they thief, he thief because say he won't live a good life. Not be say he won't live the best life. He won't live a good life. And I'll tell you some of the examples. During Fashola government and also during Ambode time, they created housing system in Lagos whereby a room self-contained in Ekpe is about 9 million naira. No, 1.9 million. That is the initial deposit. And you pay that money for, I think, about, I've forgotten the number of period now, the duration. But then that initial deposit of 1.9 million, how many civil servants for Lagos, based on their salary, fee afford to give government 1.9 million once to go collect one room apartment for Ekpe? You know, so for them to fee afford that lifestyle, they must ensure that they must thief. Now, what you just mean with that? So the government is just saying to them directly, say, "Oga, find way thief, not be they carry paper for office," because that is it. We're asking people not to steal, whereas we are creating a system that will make people steal all the time. Until we ensure even distribution of wealth, we are not going to eliminate corruption. Yeah. So, President Muhammadu Buhari with in O level, not supposed to earn money pass person wey go school, we even do NYC self. Imagine. All right, guys, that's the much I have to say today. Thank you very much. Let's do this again tomorrow. Definitely, we are trying to improve, but I get some plans, though, really. But now, Twitwi want to talk. Let Twitwi talk. All right. Thank you very much for taking time with me. I really appreciate you. Thanks to you for listening via the radio and for you also watching live on YouTube, on Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you very much. This is where I have to say bye for today.